Okay. All right. Um,
You're rolling up your sleeves now. This is serious business.
that's right. Pay attention, everybody. um,
This is pretty difficult.
uh, welcome, everyone. This is EDU Endpoint Office Hours. Today is December 2nd. I hope you all had a lovely Thanksgiving holiday if you're in the US. It was full of family and food for us, so really enjoyed the time off. Excited to be back, sort of. And I hope you all had a great one. So it is open office hours today. Richard built the deck, so we'll see what
We'll
happens.
we'll see what happens. He made it in 20 minutes, so we'll see. We'll see
Oh, it's
what he
great.
came
It's
up
great.
with.
It's great. You should at least put it in like full screen mode
No,
or
no,
something.
that no, I don't want it. I gotta click the links. That's how
Okay,
short
okay.
of time I had to do this.
This is
But
great.
what I do want to do though is I want to call out your event. Well,
Yes.
the event you're going to be at. You're not actually
Yes.
leading the event.
Right.
But actually, why don't you tell us? It's in Dallas.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be there, so you tell us
I
about it.
okay, so I did this a couple of weeks ago, right? I told you we have a Cloud and AI Endpoints Summit um, that we are hosting here in Dallas, Texas. That's where I'm based, so I will be there physically in person. And we've got Scott Manchester, VP of Windows Cloud. We've got Jason Rozak, VP of Intune, and then Christian Brinkoff, who's one of our Windows Cloud PMs and kind of an influencer too in the space. They will be keynoting, and then we'll have like breakout sessions on detailing all of the announcements at Ignite. So scan the QR code here. Join us. It is next week, December 10th and 11th. And it is split between 2 days. So it's the afternoon of the 10th and morning of the 11th. So now is a great time to come meet me if you want to meet me.
Fly
And
in the
hang
morning of
out.
the 10th.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, of course.
Fly in the morning of the
Um,
10th.
I expect Richard to.
I'm
I
not,
expect him to be
but
there.
other people can.
Yep.
I won't be.
Um, it is open to everyone, like so it's not just education. Lots of people are registering for the event, but it is focused on endpoints, and so hopefully it'll be great. We have some satellite events happening too, so if you're like in the Houston area and other places, but this is like our flagship for this year. So sign up. It's free,
Sign up.
other
Go.
than
Free.
travel.
Go shake Scott Manchester's hand. Or Garrett's hand. I don't know. Or both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Scott.
everyone's.
Me.
Yeah. Go meet
Yeah,
Garrett.
yeah. Yeah, come meet me.
It's a good time. All right,
Thanks,
so
Richard.
you're welcome, Garrett. Trying to drum up some support for you.
Yes.
All right, so at Ignite 2025, it's been 2 weeks. I'm sure everyone has digested the tome of news that came out 2 weeks ago with all the links and everything. Um, the Entra team decided to put a blog post out of all the replays of the Entra sessions. I don't know what the Intune team is doing, but the Entra team was really gung ho
They're
about
on
this
it.
one. So they've got a whole bunch of links, a whole bunch of videos. They're all up on, I think they're all on YouTube. Remember, right? But let's go
I think
ahead
they
and
are.
click the link and see where it takes us.
Because we're not sure.
Because we're not sure. We have no idea where these links came from. They just magically appeared in PowerPoint using Copilot. No, I did not use Copilot for the deck. But all the links, videos up on YouTube. I'm not sure if all of the Ignite sessions are up there or not. I didn't go to actually any of these links, so I don't know what page they're on. But if we're posting them all on YouTube, then cool. Like that's because in the
Yeah.
past you'd have to go to the Ignite page to go to the sessions and find them. And so if we're posting them all up on YouTube now, that's obviously going to make it more accessible for people. So anyway, all the Entra sessions are up, so you can go ahead and hit that link. I'll post it in
Okay,
the chat
but
here so you
let's I
guys can
mean,
do that.
let's take a moment there, and I think this is important, right? Because one of the huge areas of focus for us at Ignite this year was talking about agents and agentic workflows and how you are going to secure and manage that. And so Intra has actually done a lot of great work to tie an identity to these agents so you can treat them as agents and workers and you can secure them. So Even if you don't think it pertains to the work you're doing, pay attention to this because this is going to be important very soon.
Thank you, Garrett.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that.
That's my color commentary.
Man, you guys are gonna get the big letters for the link. Do not understand why it posts that so large, but on the deck it's much, much smaller. Maybe if I update my teams, copy and paste will work better. Think I should do it? Kidding.
If you like
All right.
copy and paste and put it in Word and then copy and paste, it works really good.
Yeah, I don't got time for that. I got slides to go through, man.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, AutoPatch. So we talked about this last time. We made an announcement around AutoPatch that there's going to be this new update readiness is coming to AutoPatch to show you how ready you are for the latest quality updates, latest feature updates. But in here, what I had noticed as I was going through the blog post is we have a link. I'm not going to go through the whole post here, but we've got a link down here to get early access to AutoPatch update readiness and quality update scheduling and approvals. You can sign up now. There's a form here to fill out. Goes through and explains what, about 6 questions here, so not a whole lot to fill out. So if you're interested in previewing the new update readiness functionality before it gets released and to provide feedback on what works, what doesn't, what could be improved on, I'd highly recommend signing up. And also, there's a link here to join the Microsoft Customer Connection Program, which is open to anyone, whether you're education or a commercial customer. You can join MCCP. I'm sure some of you guys are already in it. I know I've seen some names that look familiar in some of the Teams channels that they have. So if that's something of interest to you, go ahead and sign up and use that now. And if you haven't started looking at AutoPatch yet, now's a good time to look into it. We're also including, hot patches in there as well with AutoPatch, but quick machine recovery and how we manage that is also going to be included within AutoPatch as well. And so if you're not familiar with quick machine recovery, we've talked about it a few times in office hours, but if you remember what happened with CrowdStrike, one of the big challenges we had is when that happened, we couldn't manage the Windows recovery environment. And so now between quick machine recovery and our ability to also manage Windows RE coming here fairly soon, you'll actually be able to do that remotely. So this all ties in together with something called our Windows Resiliency Initiative. And so there's a blog post on this that came out also around Ignite that talks more about not just the quick machine recovery and the Windows resiliency, but there's also some stuff here about agents and everything else. So lots of stuff happening in the AutoPatch front. And if you haven't turned it on yet, now might be a good time to start kicking the tires on it, but also taking advantage of the early access for update readiness and being able to schedule your quality updates, which as we know now, it's pretty difficult in Intune compared to something like Config Manager to be able to schedule updates being deployed to your devices. So having that functionality coming, being able to test that out early and provide feedback would be pretty good. So I wanted to call that out too. Let's see, let me get those links for you guys. We get the big links. All right, and then Windows. So with Windows, we today we had an event. We had an AMA for the Microsoft Tech Community Live, TCL, I think is what they call it. And there were 4 AMAs this morning talking about Windows Update, managing AI and intelligent agents, Windows backup and restore options, as well as Windows accessibility in the enterprise. These 4 sessions, roughly about 30 minutes to an hour in length, all posted up on YouTube. Each of these are the direct links to our page, which just has a link to the YouTube video. All the videos are up now, so you can watch those. But one thing that we missed last time, I think this came out the week prior, or I think the day before the last office hours, there was an issue with, let me click into this, with extended security updates for Windows 10. I don't know how many of you guys are using ESUs. As we know, with education, they're fairly cheap compared to commercial. It's at $1 per device for this first year. But there were some challenges with the ESU package, and we identified an issue with it. You would need to install this KB, which was released on the 17th. So some of you guys may have already made it through this issue. I don't know, but it's because it's been about 2 weeks now since then. But there is a new scan cab that's available that you can download and install. And so the issue has been resolved. So if you haven't installed the latest ESUs for the month of November, and you're about to do that, you may run into some issues with those. We've resolved that, but I just wanted to call this out. I know it's been a couple weeks since, but just wanted to make sure that folks are aware of that. And then let's see, we did the AMAs. Known issue rollback. So when we went to making everything a cumulative update, if you remember before Windows 10, having to install Windows updates, everything was its own individual update. And so people were picking and choosing based on, whether it was a critical vulnerability or critical update, whether it was, high, medium, low. They're picking and choosing their updates. And it made developing software kind of difficult because you didn't really know what patch level someone was at. So we decided, well, hey, let's just put all this stuff into one big cumulative update. Well, there's challenges with that too, especially when something breaks. So if there's a fix, or if there's some added feature or functionality that we add to Windows, there are times when that thing just will be broken. And how do we reverse that so that we can get you back into a working state? Well, we have something called known issue rollback. But if you've ever looked at any of the documentation for known issue rollback, you'll see that we talk a lot about group policy. We say, well, if you want to use known issue rollback, you have to go download this ADMX, add it to your group policy, deploy the policy out. But there hasn't really been a lot of guidance around how to do this with Intune. And so what I wanted to call out is that there's a new doc that was released recently. I think it was September. So it was within the last couple of months, around known issue rollback, how this works, why we do it, how it works at the code level, how it's activated. It explains how it works, not just for enterprise devices that would be managed by group policy, but also known issue rollback for retail and consumer devices, and how consumers don't have to really do anything. If it's a retail or consumer device, we do the known issue rollback on your behalf if we've identified an issue that has required us to issue a known issue rollback package. But when you read this, a lot of it just talks about group policy, group policy, group policy. And then at the bottom it says, what do I do if I need to activate known issue rollback for my enterprise, but can't use group policy infrastructure? Well, what this should actually say is, I either can't use group policy infrastructure, or I'm using Intune to manage my devices. And we put a link here that says use group policy to deploy known issue rollback. But we've just, in the question, we said, well, but I can't use group policy. Well, we're forcing you to use group policy when you click the link. So you go here, it says, okay, how do I use group policy to deploy a known issue rollback? You go through it, and down here, if you keep scrolling, it'll show you, keep going, keep going, keep going. At some point, went too far.
Oh.
I went too far. Intune. There's an Intune section here. Deploy KIR activation using Microsoft Intune ADMX policy ingestion for managed devices. So as some of you may know, if you've done this before, you can ingest ADMX files into Intune. And so we have the steps here on how to do that. And so you might wonder, okay, well, how do I know? How do I know that there's a known issue rollback, or how do I handle this? Well, there's a page called Windows Release Health, and that's where I go to get a lot of the Windows related things. We'll post these in this message center under Windows Release Health. So Windows Release Health will have the message center of all the stuff that I'm just talking about, but also shows under Windows 11 and Windows 10, which obviously 10 is out of support unless you're using ESUs, but also Windows Server is here as well. And so if there are known issues, we will post in here whether there's a known issue rollback for those. I don't know if there's anything in here right now, but the known issue rollback information, like right here. So mitigation, this issue is being addressed using known issue rollback and is resolved automatically for most home users and non-managed business devices. Restarting your Windows device might help the resolution apply to your device faster. IT admins can resolve this by downloading this. This is the known issue rollback MSI. So if there's an issue you're running into and you're like, hey, something weird's happening, not expecting this behavior, I would highly recommend you come to the Windows Release Health page, go check the known issues that are out there, because this is where you're going to find those known issue rollbacks. You may see it in Message Center within your tenant. I don't know how quickly that happens. I personally would just come here first rather than using Message Center in the tenant, because the Message Center in the tenant has a lot of other things in it as well that you could just miss. So it might just be better just to come here, and it's going to be more pointed. So that's my thing on known issue rollback. I haven't seen too many people have to go down this path, but I did find it funny for the longest time. We just kept mentioning group policy, and we didn't really have any mention about how to do this with Intune. Now we have a doc that actually shows you step by step how you can do this within Intune, even though it says use group policy to deploy known issue rollback. Does not mention Intune in the name at all. So could easily be missed if you're not aware of that. All right, let's go back to the deck. I'll post those links in a different way because it's going to be one massive blob of.
I'll see if I can get them. The
You
other
have
thing I was
access to
going to
this deck,
show.
by the way.
Okay, I didn't see that
in
you
the
shared it
folder.
with me. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's in our normal.
I'll go look. Really quick, inside the Mac, the M365 Admin Center, if you do look at the Windows Release Health page, it's under the Health section, and then you can, there are some known issues that you can see in there, and there is a way to get an email notification about those as they pop in. So if you're not checking those articles frequently that Richard was just showing, that's a great backup.
And then lastly, our favorite, Windows Server, the thing we talk about the least on our call. But one thing I thought that was actually kind of cool that we didn't talk about 2 weeks ago that kind of got missed in the Ignite announcements is this thing for Windows Admin Center called Virtualization Mode, or vMode. Now, if you're not familiar with Windows Admin Center, it's a way to manage your servers, and we've had this for a while now. But Windows Admin Center is a web-based server management tool, browser-based console, to administer your Windows servers. But what they're adding to it now is the ability to manage your Hyper-V servers. And so in here, the long blog post talks about Hyper-V hosts, managing the guests. Doesn't cost anything, completely free. It's in preview right now. It will integrate with Azure Arc as well if you're doing that. No, again, like I said, no additional costs, no additional complexity. I have not had a chance to install the public preview. It's available now. I just caught this literally like 30 minutes ago, and I saw it. I was like, wow, that's actually going to be pretty cool to easily be able to manage customers' Hyper-V estates, especially now with what's been going on with VMware, and a lot of customers are looking at either Hyper-V, Nutanix. There's a bunch of others that people are looking at to get off of VMware, and those that are coming over from VMware to Hyper-V. I think that's probably one of the main reasons we decided to release this and create it was for those that are moving from VMware to Hyper-V. So if you're doing a lot of Hyper-V management or you're looking at it and you haven't gone down that path yet, take a look at virtualization mode within Windows Admin Center and sign up for that, or download the preview and take it for a spin. I don't know, Gary, if you want to post that link too. It looks like you posted some.
I already did. I got you.
All right, cool. And then lastly, we're going to have to pour one out for wins. So wins, if you're still using wins today, we should probably have a conversation. We should have some words on why you're using wins. But if you've been on social media the last week or so, a lot of people have been laughing about this, that we made this message center post here. There's a blog post I think this links to, or there's a support page. Moving forward with modern name resolution. Well, we've been on DNS now for how long? I think we've been modernized. I think DNS might actually now be considered not modern. But in any event, we are actually going to be losing Wins support in November of 2034. But we got to give you some runway here. So if you're going to get 9 years to get ready to remove Wins. So we're supporting it in 2025 though. Server 2025, it's going to continue, but server 2034 or whatever we're calling it then. I don't know if we'll have a name. I don't even know if we'll actually use years then. I'll just call it Windows Server. We'll just get rid of it. Who knows what it'll be called then? But hey, we gave you all the reasons why we're removing. We should just put because. ...
Yeah.
Like, do we
Fill
need,
up
do
the
we need a
blank.
reason? Do we need a reason? Okay, well, you got a decade to plan. So, I don't know. I just found the whole thing hilarious. So
Yeah, that's
anyway.
pretty good.
If you are using Wins and I'm laughing at you and you're getting offended, I'm sorry. It wasn't my intent. But
sorry, not sorry.
like,
oh, that's funny.
Would you like to move to the cloud? All right. Well.
Wow, Richard, I'm impressed.
You should
That
be.
was a great deck.
You should be impressed. It had humor. It had excitement.
Some drama.
Some drama.
It's the feel-good movie.
It had it all.
For sure. Yeah.
Had it all.
Wow, so impressed.
Had it all. All right. And with that, any questions? If you talk about wins, if you have questions about wins, we got open Q&A.
Yeah, it's open. So,
or I could talk about some new stuff with FFU. So
I actually want to. There was some discussion prior to us joining the call about how is everyone handling help desk staff with Intune permissions. And what roles, and a lot of you are actually creating custom roles. So at least that's what it looks like here. Some of you have created dedicated enrollment only roles, but it's a great point. I think that if you want to delegate administration for Intune or onto really any of the M365 products, you do have the ability to create those custom roles and limit the permissions across the board. And we do provide you those built-in roles. But depending on your environment, that may be too permissive. So definitely make sure that you spend some time going through those built-in roles and understand what those permissions are for those roles and understand what you're granting and start utilizing those custom role capabilities. So I was pleased to see a lot of y'all are already doing that. But if there's any questions around that, feel free to open up the floor. Of course, David's here like, yeah, I'm going to talk about FFU.
I don't know, Gary, if you start opening up the Pandora's box of RBAC.
Well, no. I'm just saying custom
we could be
roles.
here.
I didn't talk about full delegated administration.
We could be here a while. All right. I don't see any questions.
Yeah, see, Josh says, I have some issues getting the customer RBAC working in my environment. Is there anything specific, Josh? Todd's like, did someone say full delegated admin?
No. No one said any of that.
Shut that down. We did not say that.
Sorry, trying to get here. No, the issues that we're seeing are with the actual application of the roles. We can give the technicians right to manage devices, give them all those roles. We have no intro role set, and yet they still can't do anything within Intune unless I give them Intune administrator or cloud device administrator.
Isn't that how it is? I think that's how it is. I think you have to be an Intune admin for an intro role, and then from there you have the custom roles inside of Intune.
Yeah, are you modifying the custom
So
roles?
we're just trying to limit them down so that they can't do things with configuration policies or groups is the main thing we're trying to limit, so they can only manage the devices. They can't touch the policies or groups.
So we have custom intro roles in addition to our custom Intune roles, and our custom intro roles for help desk staff allows them to view groups, but not create groups, not modify. Well, I take that back. It allows them to create groups within the context of their department's administrative unit, but we have removed that functionality because if they're allowed to modify group membership, then they can take any other group and put it in one of their groups. And if the Intune role assignment has that parent group as a scope group, then they can assign policy to other departments' groups. That's an issue in our environment, which will probably get around with using Terraform to manage those groups. And so departments that utilize Intune will have to use some kind of infrastructure as code and submit a pull request to modify their groups. That's what we're working towards right now. But to get back to your question, in my experience, I can't answer the question as to whether or not the user needs to have an intro role in order to have an Intune role work properly. I don't know if that's the case, but we have created custom intro roles to give them a little bit of read permissions in intra, and maybe just starting off small like that. The Intune administrator role gives you full permissions in Intune. I should say the Intune administrator intro role gives you full administrator roles in Intune. So you don't want to assign that willy-nilly. You want to be careful with that one. But yeah, my suggestion would be do a custom intro role with just a few read permissions on devices, users, groups, and then see if that works.
Okay. So far, we've been working with the custom Intune roles. I haven't tried to make a custom intro role to address it, so we'll try that.
Yeah, there's a nice little user interface with it where you can just some check boxes next to some permissions. The groups come in 3 different categories. You can do 365 groups or security groups or both. We just have it focused on security groups. So pay attention to those paths and how granular and how specific they get for types of resources that have different things like groups.
Yeah, the idea would be to limit the text from messing with groups at all. But
yeah, just give them some read permission. We find that's helpful because they may need to go in there and see if somebody is a member of a group.
Right.
But we use intraconnect sync so they can go modify the membership on-prem to modify the membership in intra after the sync has occurred. So yeah, we try to here at our university, we try and give them as much read access as possible while they can still do the things they need to do within the RBAC system, which at times can be complicated depending on how decentralized you are. Like our different colleges, we essentially have to treat them as a full administrator, but in their own department. And sometimes that can be complicated with RBAC and segmenting that stuff and making sure they can do all that they can do. We just try to do the best we can.
Makes sense.
I will also say that make sure that the users that you're trying to get to use Intune have an Intune license.
hmm
Yep, they do. They
Because
have A1s. So
we don't have any Entra roles for Intune for anybody, but users that are not administrators can use our custom roles and log in and do stuff. So I don't
Now
think you need it.
what is the thing with Intune? And there's some like you don't have to have a license and assigned. Does this sound
Yeah.
familiar to anybody? There's like an
after June
administrative.
of 21, I think was that. I read that this
changed.
morning, but those were from old newer accounts, didn't need the license.
There's
Unlicensed
there's an
administrator.
option, and if you go to roles under tenant admin, there's a note in there that says administrator licensing. There'll be a blue button if you haven't clicked the button. There'll be a blue button there that allows unlicensed admins to have access to Intune.
Okay,
So that way you don't have to waste a license on an admin account because most organizations will have an admin account and then you'll have just your regular user account. And the regular user is obviously going to have an Intune license, but for admins to also require an Intune license just to manage the portal, you'd have to pay for 2 licenses for one person, and it doesn't make sense. So when Intune first came out, you had to do that. Then later on, we added the option for you to allow unlicensed admins to have access to Intune. So,
But that access to that happens through the Entra role.
right.
So you would
Yeah.
have to give them Intune administrator in Entra to be able to use the unlicensed administrator.
Right. And then you would control what they do in Intune through the Intune
Yeah.
custom Intune role or whatever Intune role you want to give them within Intune.
yeah, see, that brings us back to they have full access as soon as we give them the Intune administrator.
Yeah, I don't
can
have to
do
do that in our environment, assign the Intune administrator role. We just have looking at the text here on our tenant, all unlicensed admins have access to Intune. To revoke access from an unlicensed admin, remove them as a member from their Microsoft Intra group assigned to Intune role. Microsoft Intra group. So as long as the user is in an Intra group that has an Intune role assigned to it, they should be an unlicensed admin if they don't have a license assigned and then be able to access. That's how I read it.
That's how it works in my environment also. We set up
Yeah.
like I have like the Intune administrator role in Entra, and then I set up additional role groups in Entra and put other people's admin accounts in them and granted them, some of the built-in RBAC roles like application manager.
Mhm.
I was going to add the one catch we ran into is with remote help. The unlicensed admins couldn't use remote help because you need to have an actual, trying to remember what the catch was. There was a specific license that we had to have. I don't remember if it was the Microsoft 365 or if it was just having an actual like A3 or A5. So we had to assign remote help to our admin people's normal user accounts, which actually is a better experience for the customer anyways, because they see a real name and a real picture when you make the connection instead of whatever dash admin. So
That may be something I need to go back to just to make sure that we have that unlicensed admin checkbox checked. And then I know that our admin accounts have A1s, but maybe bumping them up to an A3 or A5 just to test to see if that makes a difference.
I could say it works with an A3 because that's what we have.
Okay.
I think the other admins in my area have no assigned A license and it works. We've run into that a little bit that like my account has an A1 for I don't know what reason it was assigned to me, but some of the other people don't see the same access and they still are able to log into Intune and do admin actions just fine.
What I often tell the administrators in our environment when they're having issues is to make sure if you go into the tenant admin roles, Where did they hide that? There was somewhere you can go. You can see all the permissions you have.
Yeah, it's where you're talking about. If you go into roles and then there's a monitor, it says my permissions.
Yeah, my permissions. Yeah, there it is. Yep, my permissions. So yeah, I tell them to go in there and check to see, what permissions do you see versus what you think they should have based on their role assignment. And if there's any discrepancy there could be some weird issue going on with the roles that we use privileged identity management. So when our users go and activate their assigned role, it actually adds their account to the group that has the Intune role assigned to it. And early on when I was messing with this, I did have issues with seemed like roles just kicking in, but haven't had that issue since we started using privileged identity management. And I assume if there were any issue, it might be resolved because privileged identity management is continuously adding and removing users from the group, and maybe that action has a more positive effect on things. I don't know.
It could be too that you haven't granted enough permission. Like in Config Manager, you can give all kinds of role permissions, but if you don't let them read the site, then nothing else works.
I would think that
I
would
think
be
that's
kind of
also
the
the case
scope
too,
option.
where some combination of permissions makes things happen, and it's not completely obvious what permissions you need. Like remote help would be an example. I've heard of situations where a user couldn't use it, an administrator couldn't use it, and they had to enable some other permission for it to work. So that could be a trial and error in just trying to figure out what set of permissions you need to give a user in order to give them access to the feature.
Well, I'm wondering too about the roles actually being assigned, because going back and looking at an individual user account, we see the intro roles there, but we don't see the Intune roles, the customs or the built-ins. They just don't show up under the roles. All that shows are the intro roles.
Yeah, they won't, because those are only Intune roles. It's a
Even from
separate RBAC. Only
Okay,
in
Yeah, so you got to go to two different admin centers to see the roles. You go to the Intune admin center to see their intro roles, and you have to go to the Intune admin center to see their Intune roles. Unfortunately,
I'm in the Intune admin center, and the only roles I see there are the Intune device administrators or the Intune administrators, and then the cloud device administrators, which are both the intro roles.
Oh, are you using is there a did they shoehorn in the intro roles into the Intune admin center?
That's the only thing I see when I go to the admin center to the user accounts and look at the roles. Those are the only roles.
Oh, I see. Yes. There. Yep. Yeah. So that's Microsoft often will take an area of one admin center and stick it into a different one. So when you look at users in the Intune admin center, you're actually looking at the users in Intra, even though you're not in the Intra admin center. So yes, if you find a user in the Intune admin center and you click on it and you look at their roles, those are going to be the Intra roles, not the Intune roles. And I think I don't know if there's some place you can go and just look at what roles an Intune a user has assigned from Intune. Is that the case?
I just posted in the chat under monitoring in that same section, the admin permissions report. You can put in whatever user you want, and it'll show you everything that they've got.
Ooh, nice.
Okay, cool. Definitely run that one tomorrow.
But Michael's right. The users section in Intune is just a shortcut to the users section in Intra AD. And so if you look at the roles of a user through that way, it will only show you the Intra roles, not the Intune roles, even though you're in the Intune console.
Yep. That tracks.
Groups is the same. Groups is the same way. The groups.
Yeah, and even under tenant administration, where they have privileged identity management, same thing. Just takes you
conditional
over to the
access.
Intro. Yep.
Yes,
there's actually not a lot of areas in Intune that are, unique to Intune. There's a lot of overlap between the two.
Yeah. Conditional access is not an Intune thing.
Okay, that was awesome. Thank you, everyone. Michael, Todd, that was awesome. Josh, report back. Let us know. I want
Will
to
do.
move on to Leaf's question, because he needs to settle a bet.
Well, hey, well, before we go into this, Leaf, how much money is on this bet?
It's lunch. It's a very nice lunch, is what I was told.
How much is that now with inflation and everything? Lunch
thinking
prices
40
are much more
bucks.
expensive.
I'm thinking 40
How
bucks.
much?
I'm thinking $40. I'm
40
saying
a $40 lunch is on the line.
Yeah.
Is
we're
steak
gonna
involved?
do this.
I don't think it's gonna be
Steak
steak. I
involved?
think it'll be like a nice Mexican place, you know, someplace
Nice
with a tablecloth, but it's not
Oh, a
too
tablecloth.
fancy.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Well, just as long as it's not leftover turkey.
Yeah, it's not leftover turkey.
Okay. Okay. So we need to confirm with. Oh, we need to confirm the best case scenarios for using all of the different options to wipe a machine in Intune.
I can
Well,
roll
it's
it into
funny
a
that-
poll if you want.
Well, you can put it to a poll, but actually,
I mean-
while everyone was talking about the role-based access stuff, I wrote a deck. I can't even remember when the deck was written. It's probably when Autopilot Reset came out. So it was right around when Autopilot came out. About the different options. I'm actually sharing my screen just to kind of show this. Not sure if anything's changed since, but put a table in here that just basically went through the docs and tried to kind of rationalize what each thing did. So, well, that's not great. Just cutting things off. Let's see.
How long ago was this?
What's that?
How long ago did you do this?
I told you, I can't remember. It was back when Autopilot Reset was in preview,
Oh,
which
gosh.
it might actually
Okay.
still be in preview. I don't know. There's lots of things that just kind of the preview tag just kind of remain, like Gmail. Wasn't Gmail in beta for like 20
Yeah.
years or something?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm saying
We
wipe.
used the G word on this call.
I'm saying wipe. So that's what I always say
Right.
wipe, and then he's saying no, you can fresh start, and it's still just as good. So
Well, and that depends on what you want the end result of the device to be. So like resetting the device, okay, they all do that. Okay, big deal. That's push button reset. You go into settings, you reset the device. It's the same exact CSP we call, whether it's coming from Intune or whether you go into settings, we're doing the same thing. So reset just does reset. But then do we want to keep the Azure Active Directory join or Entra ID join now? If we want to keep that, well, all three of them do that. You want to keep the MDM enrollment? Well, all three of them do that. Retain user data. Okay, now this is where things start to diverge a bit. So if we want to retain user data, we can do that with wipe, we can do that with fresh start. But we can't do that with autopilot reset. Autopilot reset, we blow all the user data away. So user profile's gone, all that stuff's gone. If we're using autopilot reset, we require that the enroll and status page is configured within the tenant for that to work. I don't know if that's still the case today, but it was at the time when I wrote this. Updates to the latest version of Windows 10, well, now it'd be Windows 11, but Fresh Start does that, whereas Wipe and Autopilot Reset don't. Do you want to keep the domain join? Well, we have to wipe for that. And that's actually on-prem domain. It's not AADJ. It's on-prem domain join. Do we want to keep that? Well, we can do that with wipe, but we can't do that with the other methods. OEM installed apps. So when you buy a device from an OEM, there's a hidden recovery partition that contains the OEM's apps. I'm sorry, not partition, folder. There's a hidden recovery folder on your device that has a provisioning package that contains all of the applications that they installed originally for the device. When we wipe, we reapply that provisioning package. We can only do that with wipe. We can't do that with fresh start or autopilot reset. If we want to maintain user data outside of the user profile, so things that might be in C/random folder, well, we can do that with wipe, but we can't do that with fresh start or autopilot reset. Language, region, keyboard, all those values that were originally configured, autopilot reset, Wi-Fi connection details, That right there is probably the biggest item. If I'm in an enterprise or if I'm in an education environment and I'm resetting things, especially remotely, that aren't connected to internet at all, I can't reset a device and then have it not have network. So that's where autopilot reset pretty much wins out. The other stuff, yeah, it's important, but the Wi-Fi connection, it's kind of the big one. And then provisioning packages, if you use those to enroll devices, autopilot reset, it does it, but it doesn't work the way that I would want it to work, where the provisioning package actually gets applied sometime later. It doesn't get applied right away as soon as the device is done with its reset. It actually, you could sign into the machine, and if your provisioning package had like, you know, Firefox or Chrome or a bunch of different browsers or applications or whatever, that provisioning package will install, and it'll install those old apps. But it may install them after the user's already signed in, because it's done via a scheduled task. And so if you are using provisioning packages to apply it to your devices, you might find that, yeah, they do apply, but they do it in some indeterministic amount of time after the user may have signed in. So now to go back and look at the questions. So you have...
Now that you're grounded.
Now we're grounded in data. So fresh start, used for PC viruses. Well, okay. If my PC has a virus, though, I'm not going to reset the device with any of these methods. If there was a virus on it, because you have to think about how wipe works or how reset works in Windows. With reset in Windows, we use something called push button reset, which effectively is just using the current OS that's already on the device to recover the machine. Well, if I've got a virus, I don't know what that's hit on the machine. I can't be fully certain that the files that Windows is going to use to fix itself are clean. So in my opinion, I would actually just go get new media and I'd just pave the box and reinstall Windows. But where fresh start works out is, hey, I want to reset the device. I need to keep my Azure AD join, I need to keep the MDM, retain the user data, get the latest updates, then I'll use fresh start. But if I do that from within Intune, I'm going to lose out on the other things that wipe and autopilot reset handle for me. So fresh start might not be the option to actually use at all. Now with autopilot reset, okay, used for staff computer change, primary user, and any changes in the autopilot configuration that we want repushed. Autopilot reset is probably a poorly named feature. It shouldn't be named what it is, given what it does. Because if I enroll a device via provisioning package, I haven't used autopilot at all. I just use a provisioning package that grabbed a bulk enrollment token that enrolled the device into Intune and enter ID. I didn't use autopilot at all. So, and of all of these things that you see in the list, none of these things have anything to do with autopilot. So nothing to do with autopilot, yet it actually does, if you look at all the checkboxes, for the most part, it kind of does what most people want. So autopilot reset might actually be the best thing to use compared to everything else. But again, it depends on what you want. Like if I need to retain user data, well, I can't use autopilot reset, right? So that way I might actually have to use wipe. So now with wipe, I can use, it's used for offboarding computer. Yeah, but when you look at all these options, and this is kind of me being on a soapbox here because I've wanted this thing to be fixed for a long time and it hasn't been fixed. But when you look at a device and you look at wipe, so we've got wipe, and we have this big old thing that explains what it does. Wipe device, but keep the enrollment state and associated user account. And then wipe the device and continue to wipe even if the device is power. If you select this option, please be aware that it might prevent some devices running Windows 10 and later from starting up again. So if you don't do anything, and you just leave this as is, then it's just be a wipe. It'd just be like if you hit the reset button on the PC within settings, you just reset it, let it go. It just gets you back to the UBI, and everything would just be wiped out. It would do, reset everything to default settings. It does all the stuff that you see in this top column here, or the top paragraph here. Well, then fresh start, we could retain the user data. We saw that in the table. And then we have autopilot reset, which I can't do on this machine for some reason. I don't know why. Not sure why that's actually grayed out. Let me see if I can find a different one. There it is. And so gives you a description, but there's no additional checkboxes here. Now, what I would like, no one cares what I like, but what I would like is if we took autopilot reset, we took fresh start, and we took wipe, put them all under one button called wipe, and then had checkboxes for all the different things that these things do. You just check, 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 and then wipe. But we have to make tables to explain these things because they do different things that you may or may not care about. So long-winded explanation because it's a very complicated topic, but it's an important topic to understand because you might be doing things not really realizing what these things actually do. So that's the 5-10 minute rundown on how you should be thinking about wiping a device with an Intune, at least from a Windows perspective.
I think you're right.
So I don't know how you're going to win this bet by that answer.
Right. So who won? Did you win?
I don't know. I'm gonna say it. Well, Josh, you're taking me to Taco Bell next week. I won.
Yeah, I think
bet.
this $40 bet turned into a $10 bet, and you're going to be eating
Taco Bell. We're
Taco Bell.
at 'em.
That's
$10. When's the last time you've been to Taco Bell?
I don't eat a Taco Bell at all, so I don't know how much is Taco Bell these days.
You're not feeding a full-size human for $10.
Yeah.
I think the last time I went to Taco Bell, it was like $1 a taco. Like when I was in high school.
It's been a while,
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the rundown. But so, like, if you can't, you got to be able to trust the OS that's installed from the ground up. So you're almost saying like wipe it because at that point you know that there's nothing on it.
Wipe it, but I guess what's the intent? What is the overall intent?
The intent
for
is
that
to
device?
like put the device back into service with a new user, right? But in a guaranteed clean state.
I would use autopilot reset then.
Okay. Autopilot reset. All right.
Yeah, because it's going to retain this stuff down here. Well, provisioning packages, I'm not too crazy about those within this context, but the Wi-Fi connection stuff, like if I were to remote wipe something and I kill the internet on it and there's no internet connectivity after the fact, well, now I haven't bricked the device. I can still use the device, but effectively, if there's no IT person or someone to help that user, then and that user can't connect to the internet, they've got to go to the help desk and open a case or something. I've kind of made more work for myself. But if I can leverage autopilot reset to keep the connectivity, and that's the only option I have. So I have to do that. So most cases should be autopilot reset. If you need to retain user data, depending on where that user data is, wipe or fresh start might be the next. If I were to order these in priority, autopilot reset, wipe, fresh start. That's how I'd look at it.
Thank you.
That was great. Great conversation. Hopefully you all learned something. Richard, do you have like 2 minutes to give an update on FFU?
Yeah, so one thing I want to bring up here is why does that look like that? Okay. Let me reshare. Okay, so for the UI preview, I wanted to get out a release last month. Trying to do a release a month. Typically, even before the UI, I wanted to get a release out every month. But there were some issues with Dell drivers primarily. that I've fixed. And what I need is actually some help from people. So I posted a discussion here around a potential breaking change with how drivers are applied. It's a long post, kind of goes over the new changes that we've made, or I have made, to how Dell and HP drivers are handled. The way that I was doing Dell drivers before is we were using Dell's, they have a catalog pc.xml file. It's just like a big XML, it's like 50 megs that has all the different models inside of it. And I really kind of unknowingly didn't realize that Dell likes to reuse model numbers. So if you had like a 5530 that was a latitude, well, there could be a 5530 for precision. There could be a 5530 for Inspiron. So what was happening was it was actually combining all of these models into one line item within the UI. So you would select it, you would download the drivers, and I had this big, huge cab for drivers for all these other models. And some of these models are like ancient. They're like probably 10 years old. So we ended up with way too many models, or way too many drivers for a model number. So I broke that out, and now what you'll see is that we've added there are now over 1,600 models for Dell. Well, Dell doesn't have actually like 1,600 total models. What they do though is they'll have a model number, but then they'll use a system ID. And most of you guys are probably aware of this if you have dealt with Dell devices for some time. They've got a system ID that they use. And so you might have a model, but it has multiple system IDs. So it could be like a Dell 5530, but then it's got, two different system IDs for that one model type. So like for this one right here, I've got this 5530 that I just downloaded, but there are two of them here. And then in fact, 5530 is used for Inspiron. There's a E5530, and then there's a Precision 5530. So we've broken all of these out. But in doing this, it's also caused some changes in how we do driver mapping. So we can automatically apply drivers to devices. We'll look at WMI, we'll look at your system ID, and we'll match those together. And so I've made some changes to driver mapping. So what I need some help with, just from folks that are using HPs and Dells primarily, Lenovo should be fine. I've got a Lenovo device. I've been testing pretty much most of the stuff with Lenovo. And Surface devices, I don't think anything for Surface really should change. But Dell and HP have had some pretty major driver changes that have been made. And so that blog post kind of goes into some of the details there. So I just need some help for people just to tell me things work, they don't. And then if they don't, I'll ask you for some follow-up info. But here's the post to that. Here's the link to that post. Yeah. And just help me out there just to see how that all works. I think it should work fine. And then just some other changes that I've added. We now have a bits priority option here. So most things download from bits. Actually, I think I fixed the ESD downloads. So ESD downloads, if you don't provide an ISO path, like you can go download your ISO, you can add it, and it'll build the FFU from the ISO you've provided. But if you don't pass an ISO, and I'll probably change this to make it more clear, but the way that the old script worked was that if you didn't pass an ISO, we just go out to the media creation tool and we download the latest media. So the way that the UI works now is that if you don't pass an ISO in the UI, then we'll just go and download the latest ESD media. So that now is all done with bits. So I think almost everything now is using bits now for the downloads. But one of the challenges with bits is that depending on the environment you're in, if everything is downloaded via foreground, then you may actually be a not so nice network consumer, and you might be actually chewing up a ton of bandwidth. So our recommendation from a best practices perspective with bits is that when you're using bits, everything should be at normal. So what I've done is I've actually changed the defaults to normal. but I've given a drop down here to change to foreground. So the default behavior now with the latest builds in the UI 2510 branch, it's to use bits priority as normal. So what you'll find is that as you're downloading drivers, it might feel like they're really, really slow. That's because bits is using normal priority. If you want them to be really, really fast, then change to foreground, and that will make things much quicker. Also, there's a threads option here now. If you wanted to download 10 different driver packages all at once, then we can thread that with 10, and then it'll download all 10 of them. Depending on what you selected here, you can click download selected, or if you want to just download the drivers during the build, save drivers to JSON, then it'll download 10 of those drivers in foreground mode with bits. So, those are the big major changes that are coming. They're already there in the code. If you click on that link, that's going to take you to that post. In that post, I posted a link to the latest code to download. I need that tested so I can get the release out. I wanted to get a release out probably end of this week. It'll probably be next week though, just because we're already almost halfway through the week now. But yeah, so if folks can help test, that'd be hugely helpful, because all of my HP and Dell devices are so old, I've broken the hard drives on them with all the re-imaging that we've done over the last, 10 years of those things. So need new devices. Anywho, I know we're over a bit, but thanks for sticking around.
That's awesome,
Richard.
Richard. Great work.
And I don't know, anything else, Garrett?
That's it. We have one more office hours, so December 16th, that'll be our last one for the calendar year. We're going to cancel the 30th, obviously, because everybody will be on vacation, hopefully. I will be. So, yeah, we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Thanks for joining.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Bye.